Hello, Internet. We are continuing to read How to Be Your Own Therapist. Alrighty. So, Chapter 4. Okay, what now? I'm sure you've heard of the expression, to open Pandora's box. According to Greek mythology, this box, once opened, was meant to release all the ills of the world onto mankind. It's an expression I often hear from people who are hesitant about imagining therapy. I don't want to open Pandora's box. Who knows what will come out? They're understandably concerned that therapy will dredge up painful memories long buried, and they're skeptical about it ultimately being a healing process. But this concern is unfounded. The only thing you find when you explore your story is the truth. And as a wise person once said, the truth will set you free. Even if you don't like the truth or the darker side of your story, it will ultimately lead you to a better life. When you find your courage to identify the formative experience you have made you the person you are today, you will be empowered to reclaim ownership of your life and discover what changes are needed. And that's what we'll be talking about in this chapter. Daring to imagine a better future and changing your life. But first, let's talk about the fear of change that can hold us back from a better future. I'll often meet clients who aren't remotely wary of therapy. They tell me their story, no problem, make sense of it, but then freeze. Suddenly, they're faced with the reality that the future can be different from what they've originally envisioned. And while for some people that can be liberating, for them, it's terrifying. Selena is a woman I welcomed into my therapy room a few years back. She had been diagnosed with a serious mental condition, but thankfully had a very positive prognosis. She was at a crossroads in her life and described her serious illness as a wake-up call. We got off to a great start in therapy. She was candid, honest, worked hard, didn't avoid issues, and was open to suggestions. But this changed after a few sessions when I asked her, okay, what now? What do you want for your future? She couldn't speak. The atmosphere in the room turned cold. I was a little baffled. She had told me her story and got to the bottom of why she struggled in some areas of her life, but she wasn't able to go any further. My question had clearly upset her, and she decided then and there that therapy wasn't for her. She didn't want to continue, not today, not ever. I tried to explore this with her, but she was resistant. As Selena was about to leave the room, I held the door open for her. I was a little taken back by her keenness to exit, so, being unsure of what to say, I opted a silent, calm demeanor, one of the tricks of the trade when you have a challenging moment as a therapist. I decided, as Selena was leaving, to keep the door open for some fresh air before my next client. But Selena automatically started to pull the door closed. I politely pulled it open again, gesturing my intention, but she pulled it back. To anyone watching in the waiting area, I'm sure it looked like a tug-of-war between therapist and client. During this kerfuffle, I diplomatically and calmly informed Selena that I would like to leave the door open. She stopped and said, I'll think about it. She thought I meant I wanted to keep the door open for future therapy with her. I think back to this episode often as the perfect demonstration of both our unconscious wishes manifesting in our seemingly unrelated actions. On my side and Selena's side, interpretations of those actions. On her side, when my conscious mind told me I was simply leaving the door open to get some fresh air, in fact, I was keen for Selena to return to therapy and work through what she had wanted for her future. And Selena's correct interpretation of my unconscious wish indicated her subconscious desire to return to therapy also. Significant meaning often lies between seemingly insignificant or unrelated actions. Psychoanalysis talk a lot about this, but we won't go into that here. A week later, Selena arranged to come back for a session. It's not uncommon for someone to drop out of therapy at difficult moments and then return after some time thinking. We explored what was going on for her. She had never worked out what she wanted for her life. No one ever asked her what she wanted. She was a people pleaser. She avoided decision-making and allowed other people to make decisions for her, or for events outside of her control, to carry her along. My question forced her to face up to both this hard truth and the prospect that she might have to abandon the pattern she'd established in her life that felt familiar and safe. I was asking her to look at life full of new possibilities, and rather than inspiring excitement, this terrified her. Thankfully, she was able to identify that fear and the fear that was getting in the way. We worked on that together successfully. I wonder at this moment if you experienced a similar reaction to Selena when I asked the question, what now? What do you want for your future? Pause for a second and notice how it makes you feel. Perhaps you can identify some of the following emotions: vulnerability, reluctance, cynicism, doubt, fear, anxiety, instability, excitement, hope, curiosity, freedom, and release. There isn't a right or a wrong answer here. There are no cash prizes. There's no booby prizes. If you had a negative reaction to the question about your future, that's completely fair. Your reaction could be telling you that fear or old ways of thinking are getting in the way of you envisioning a positive future for yourself. The good news is you can do something about that. Likewise, a positive reaction could be a reminder that you are capable and ready to change. The amazing benefit of therapy is that both positive and negative responses to questions about your future can be turned to your advantage. You could be feeling frightened, doubtful, or vulnerable, but then turn these emotions into something powerful. As I've said before, therapy isn't always a good feeling, at least initially. But together, we can deal with all the emotions that come up. We can even thank them, thank them for supporting us, which is part of their function. Emotions work with us in helping us navigate our way through life. They are like an internal watchguard of sorts. Some of the emotions you'll experience during self-therapy may have felt overwhelming when you were a child, but as an adult, you can now handle whatever comes up. Sometimes you just need to remind the child within you, and we all have that one, that your adult self is on the case. How happy are we with your life right now? Before you consider your future, it's important to review what's going well in your life and what isn't going well. We're going to do an exercise now that will encourage you to take a step back and assess how satisfied you are with your different areas of your life, this present time. The results of this exercise act as a baseline that you can measure against in the future. I want you to stop and consider how content you are right now with each life area that I've listed below. Then rate each out of 10 according to this scale. 8 to 10, very satisfied. 6 to 7, reasonably satisfied. 5, could be a lot better. 1 to 4, dissatisfied. If there are any areas that I've left out but which are important to you, feel free to add them. Achievements to date. Work, school, professional life. Finances, your home. By this mean happiness with your home, life, practicality, and emotionally. Where you live, social status, how you look, friendships, romantic life, spirituality, family life, fun and adventure, self-confidence, value and principles, self-care, looking after yourself physically, emotionally, psychologically, physical health, mental health, hopes for the future, work, life or study, life balance, rest or relaxation time, making a difference to others or the world, looking after the planet, general sense of satisfaction with all your life. How is that exercise for you? Some people find it enlightening. Let's face it, we rarely stop to evaluate our lives. We're all too busy working, looking after our family, scrolling Instagram, or watching Netflix to work out what we want. Whatever your rating in each of your areas is, please don't be hard on yourself. If, for example, you arrived at a 4 or less in several categories, that's okay. It's better to be aware of your dissatisfaction than to be in denial about it. And this helps you recognize which areas of your life might need a little work or more attention, and which have the biggest impact on your feelings or contentment. For instance, it may not be important to you that you have to make a lot of money, but so long as you feel like you're making a difference in the world, you're happy. Or you may identify that so long as you're feeling connected to your partner and getting a daily workout in, you're generally content and can deal with anything life throws at you. Whether that be disappointment at work, or whether your finances or sleep, or opportunities have fun take a hit. Equally, it's useful to acknowledge your areas of satisfaction. It won't come as any great surprise to hear that almost every new client I meet is unhappy with their life. Not only that, but they can always list a few reasons, most of which are outside of themselves. We'll come to that, why they are unhappy. These reasons tend to be the direct result of dissatisfaction with the specific areas of their lives that consider to have the biggest impact upon their feelings and contentment. So, either they've not recognized that these are the areas of their life that matter most to them, or they're not working to keep their satisfaction levels in these areas topped up, which it is their responsibility to do as it is yours. Here are some of the most common reasons clients cite for being unhappy with their lives. You might identify one or more of these. My husband/wife partner is in pain, life is too stressful, I'm so busy all the time, I've had a terrible life, I hate my job, boss, work colleagues, if I were richer, I'd be happier, the kids are wearing me down, I wish I'd make better choices, it's all too much, I can't get over what happened to me. So we acknowledged that our happiness is dependent on understanding which areas of our lives matter most to us. And we've acknowledged that some of these areas, such as where we live, our past experience with family or friends, or life-changing health issues or injuries to ourselves or others, fall outside the realm of how we feel and behave, and of our identity today. But it's equally important to be aware that these external factors are not entirely responsible for how we feel and behave. Of course, some life events and current situations will have a major effect on your feelings of contentment. And I don't want to minimize the impact they've had on your life, mental health, and well-being, particularly if you're experiencing deep loss, trauma, or adversity. But if we believe circumstances many of which are outside of our control and are entirely responsible for who we are, we can be left feeling powerless or like victims. There's another option. We have choices in how we manage the harsh cards life may have dealt us. Once you realize that, you're empowered to act. Everything can change. I can't manage becomes I have survived tougher moments. This isn't fair becomes what can this teach me? My life is pointless becomes my life has possibilities. I will never get through this becomes I am getting there. I appreciate this might be a little less uncomfortable to read, but most people, at least, it's the truth. We don't realize that we have a major part to play in our psychological well-being and happiness. Life happens to all of us, but how we react is everything. You may have worked out by now what I want to guide you sensibly onto the what now stage of our work. Your life satisfaction scores will help you consider what changes you would like to make for the future. For example, if you scored a 3 on where you live or your job, then of course it makes sense to look at ways of making changes in those areas. But I can't emphasize enough that your internal world needs not take a back seat. Look at the scores relating to your mental health, self-care, hopes for the future, self-confidence, and values and principles. Consider how you think and deal with emotions. If your internal world isn't managed well, then you will continue to suffer. If the internal world is neglected, the external world won't fill the void of dissatisfaction. What do you want in the future? What do you want to change? Now that you've looked back at your life story and used it to help you understand who you are today, and you've taken stock of how you feel about your life, now it's time to look forward. I'm going to ask you again, what do you want your future to be? More of the same, something better, a new start, something extraordinary? This is huge. You are at a crossroads, and you have the chance to make a different route with your life. Stop and ask yourself, are you prepared to settle for a humdrum life, or do you want to create something exceptional? The only person who can answer this is you. I do want to share one thought as you ponder this. I spent 10 years of my career in palliative care, watching people of all ages die, often unexpectedly and quickly. I'm confident that most of those people, given a second chance, would have opted for more extraordinary moments in their lives. Whatever extraordinary means for you, make your life count. And remember, extraordinary doesn't mean bigger, better, or more grandiose. It can be found when you decide to be fully present in the ordinary moments. I've broken the question down into 2 essential components. Tangible, material life changes you want for the future. The internal changes you want to make, ways of thinking, managing your emotions and behaviors. Chapter 1 and 2 will help you identify what changes you personally would benefit from making in this area. As with the previous exercises, I'm going to encourage you to take time out and consider the first of these questions carefully. You might have heard this stage described as goals, plans, targets, or aspirations in other books. These are all great, but I would encourage you to think in terms of reclaiming life, hopes, contentment, and peace. We're driving inward here. We're diving inward here. I've noticed as a therapist that most people, when discussing future wishes, automatically direct attention to the external stuff. Money, job, house, car, weight loss, relationship, etc. I get it. I'm guilty as everyone else. No judgment here. I'd love more hair. I'd love a Porsche one day. I'd love to be as fit as I was when I was 20. I sometimes wish I had the look of Tom Hardy, but somewhere deep down, not really me that wants that. My ego does, and that's okay. Our egos seek glory and gratification, but if we know that and manage it, all is well. Ultimately, Desire doesn't bring contentment. I know this personally. I see this with every client I work with. I'm sure it's the same for you. I've learned from bearing witness, talking about, and working to understand human suffering more than 30 years. That material gains don't satisfy internal yearnings. Satisfaction and peace are primarily an inside job. I'm not saying here that you shouldn't have the holiday, but buy that dress. Change your eating habits. Go ahead and make the changes that are going to improve your life. I am, however, recommending that you also listen to the internal voice that whispers, does this serve me well? Does this bring me peace? The answer always comes. I now hand over to you to make the list of what we want for your future, both material life changes and internal changes within yourself, keeping in mind the area of life that matters most to you. All right, guys, so that was a pretty solid chapter. How to be your own therapist. I will continue some more. If anybody has some suggestions on books I should be reading, or maybe books that books that I should be reading. I guess that's probably the easiest way to say. Please comment and let me know. Have yourself a great day. Hug your kids, kiss your wife or your husband. Have a great day.